right, everyone. We are so excited to have you back here. Hard to believe we're in November. I'm not the only one that's in shock about that. Not to mention, it is also the daylight savings time here in the U.S. But we've got a jam-packed session here for you tonight, a wonderful conversation, and your team has been very busy at work. And so we have our panelists with us today, Jim Porter, John Bonzel, Karen Elkins. We have James and Joey that's handling everything behind the scenes. Jackie is listening in, and Ken Pearson is recovering from surgery and listening to us here in California. So before we dive into our program tonight, why don't we just take a moment to tune into that universal heartbeat, listen to the ocean sound John has recorded for us before. And if you would, just close your eyes and become centered in this moment. As you breathe deeply in and out, if you'll just bring yourself here to this moment, knowing there's a reason why you're here. As you're breathing in, that universal heartbeat of the ocean, become centered in your heart. Relax into tonight's experience. And tap into the knowing that will come forth. Relish the love vibration that comes through. Enjoy the love that's been poured into all of this here today. And whenever you're ready, feel free to open your eyes as we begin our journey here today. So welcome everyone, glad to see you. And so as you take a look here, I had a wave actually pop over. I'll come across my social media today. I couldn't help but think about this as someone had actually superimposed the spectrum on a wave, as you'll see there on the screen. And as we take a look at that, as we're getting ready to go into, we're pulling that up for just a moment, is where he's working on that. So there it is. I just thought that was kind of a neat wave. It almost reminded me of a fishtail, but it showed things in constant motion.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Isn't
beautiful.
That the way the sun comes through that. So I couldn't help but think how powerful that was. So
now I'd like to have a piece of glass like that, Kimberly.
Well, all right. Point noted. Let's see what we can do about manifesting that, John.
Wow,
so
that's beautiful.
At where we are today. We are going into Unit 6, Lesson 20, as you'll see on the screen there. And tonight is, Lesson 21, that they're first principles. And it is a big lesson, a very exciting and very powerful lesson. So we invite you to simply relax into it. We've got a lot to cover here. And as you'll take a look there on the next screen, whenever you order the home study course, you get a complete outline of everything that's covered. And that just gives you an idea of what we're going to be covering this month in November. Very, very powerful stuff. And simply want to remind everybody why we do this. And so if we would, John, if you'll read this next quote.
Mediocrity is self-inflicted and genius is self-bestowed. Walter Russell.
This was the quote that inspired us to actually start the Awaken Your Inner Genius, because we're focusing on two areas for the Walter and Leo Russell work. The first is The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And we invite you to get a copy of that small book. And it's also a great way to give stocking stuffers this Christmas and encourage people to find the work. And we're moving towards this. The home study course is what we're focused on. And Jim, if you'll read this next quote.
Sure. If you can read and count to 9, you can master the secrets of the universe.
So that is something for us all to remember. And Karen, as we were talking, we met Friday and we were saying that we needed a t-shirt just with that particular sentence on, because we want to remind everybody that if you can do that, you can absolutely master the secrets of the universe. And so we're inviting as many people, encouraging people to actually get a copy of the home study course. And I also wanted to pause for a moment. We're going to show you some videos from the recent social media that we're doing. But right now we're at 439 subscribers. We have to reach 500 subscribers before we can start offering t-shirts for sale on the YouTube channel. So if you would, please encourage it. And I wanted to show you, James has done a great job. James, if you'll come off mute and just talk to us about the two videos you show us today, because not everybody has had a chance to see it, and the team has been doing a great job. You're on mute. So he's not able to, okay, not able to do that. Okay, can't come on talking. So he's getting ready to show the video. So that's fine. If we could just take a look at this first video. And this was when someone actually receives their home study course.
I actually just got the Walter Russell home study course in. So let's dive in and take a look at it together. Wow. Right off the bat, I can see why people are obsessed with this course. It's not your average spiritual study. It's a full-blown guide to mastering the science of the universe, blending art, philosophy, and practical life lessons into one powerful experience. What makes it stand out from other courses is Walter Russell's unique approach. He combines deep cosmic truths with real-life application, meaning you're not just learning abstract ideas. You're gaining knowledge you can actually use to change your life. The best part is it's 10% off right now, and there are monthly plans if you want to go through this unit by unit. Go ahead and grab it at the link in the bio.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
All right, my mic came back alive.
That is
yes.
Okay. James, I thought that was really neat that you did that because you were capturing your own joy of when you received the home study course.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, do you want to show the other funny TikTok just because you've been doing some funny things? If not,
sure.
we'll
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
We'll show this other funny
one.
one.
Just for the rest of you, I had not seen this one. And then I just about spit out my drink when it came across my social media feed because it was using one of the memes from TikTok. And I thought it was pretty funny. And
that's it. And my son actually helped me with this one. So, yeah.
This right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever. I think about this every day. I think about this all night long. I stay awake, not sleeping, because I'm thinking about this.
So that's what you would call a meme inspired by a 15-year-old saying, let's get more people to be interested in this overall course.
That's it.
So thank you very, very much. And so wanted to go back for a moment before we start and just remind everybody about love and action. In the past couple of weeks, Jim and John have both talked about the joy of actually helping to open the museum and move things in. And I thought you both, Jackie just found some videos and we thought everyone, Margie, Tony, and some of the rest of you would be inspired to see. And so as they show the videos, John or Jim, if you want to comment at all, we're going to have those videos come up and you can just ad lib as we go along. If there's anything you'd like to add, we can start now.
Well, there you see an empty shell. 20,000 square feet, soon to become a museum.
Wow.
Those are all paintings there boxed up. Now, this reminds me of the Three Stooges. You got Jim, John, and Jesus.
Well, this is when you were repairing. So, Jim, if you'll comment, you were saying how you had some real kudos for John and all the work that he did. And I thought it'd be helpful for people to see the size of the statues that you all repaired. Jim?
Yeah, this is, you can see the condition that each piece was in there. And the other one's, of course, not in sight yet. When he stands with his legs and without the base, he's 15 foot tall. With the base, he's almost 30.
Wow.
And you can see that, and this is 5 separate pieces that were not meant to be for the same pour. Yet John, with his diligence and his love of the work, you can see he's redone the head, and then in addition to that, he went on and made everything fit together. And it took hundreds and hundreds of hours of hard work.
Well, and what you see there is the actual moving in the tables that used to be at Swananoa, right, John?
Yes. Those things were heavy. My God.
Now, that talk about quality. So we just thought you all would like to have a little bit of a snapshot to a history because you're now part of that history. So very, very powerful, and a special thank you to everyone who has created this legacy, because I have to tell you, walking into that museum changed my life. So take a look at all the hard work right there of every single thing that was moved in the museum there in Waynesboro, Virginia, which is where I am broadcasting from right now. So a big thank you to all of you that continue the legacy and continue it to today. So why don't we go ahead and jump in? So before I start, what was your favorite thing about this particular lesson 21? Jim, what was your favorite thing overall, just high level?
Well, it's a very gentle move into the science, and you're beginning to see how the science is and the philosophy are one. And this will come across very clear in this particular unit. that one is expressing the other. And I can't really, and I'll end it up right here. I really cannot express enough the importance of continuing to do your meditation and communion as you go through each unit.
Okay. All right, John, just high level. What was your favorite thing about studying this? And I'll share mine as well.
Well, what stands out to me is how Dr. and Leo were absolutely brilliant in setting the stage for what's about to unfold here. So they did the preparation, units 1 through 5. All right. And now it's time to roll up your sleeves and we're going to get to work now, so to speak. So that's what. Yes.
That's actually what I saw. And I was so, Karen, just a quick comment from you. High level, what was your favorite thing about going through this particular lesson?
It was big. and in it was, I was doing a couple things during the week when I was trying to come up with lots of visuals for many different things. Everything converged and everything was basically saying the same thing, which we are light. And it kept showing over and over again, whether it was water stuff I was doing, or this, which is Walter Russell's work, which has to do with water and the wave and how everything is imprinted in the universe cosmically with the same geometry as above, so below. It was so cool.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? Because this is a really big one. Karen's working on our visual journey here to finish things up. So let's go ahead and dive into page 2. Excuse me. It's going to be the 397, page 397. And John, I'm going to ask you if you would please read that yellow highlighted section.
In the first 5 units, we have purposely laid the foundations for a better understanding of God, the nature of God, the relationship of God to man, and to his universe.
Would you continue, please?
Yes. Now we wish to strongly emphasize the fact that what you will find as we gradually take you behind the scenes of God's cosmic stage is utterly simple and is fully comprehensible to you when you finally comprehend it as adding 2 and 2 together.
So I love this next part. Please do not for a moment say it is over your head or that you cannot understand it, for you can understand it. Remember that new knowledge always seems over your head. You have got to think it over and over again, then meditate upon it, which Jim was just saying, until you now read it with your senses and you will gradually know in your soul. It will become a part of you. And this is my 3rd time through the home study course. And I completely agree with that. So for all of you, as you're beginning to listen, just tune into the overall love and the vibration of it, because that's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And so Jim, if
I can just make a comment, I think that next line there is really very valuable. If I could just read that.
Please go ahead. That's where I was going.
The more you can think cosmically instead of sense physically, the more you will find yourself using God's mind as your mind and God's hands as your hands. And I think that's important. If people can think and know that there is no separation between you and God, the only separation that exists is what's in your mind. But once you start accepting your oneness with your Creator, these principles that the Russells are sharing with you, they truly do open up to you, and then you'll have that epiphany and you'll go, oh my God.
Yes. Yes. When even I was going into relationship with the words today, and they were incredibly powerful. And so I want to go on to where that blue arrow is. And it talks about that all geniuses are enabled to, that they're all enabled to become a master of creative expression by being able to make the shortcuts to achievement that all geniuses are enabled to make because of their cosmic knowing. You must master each step as you go. Each idea as you absorb it by going back to it time after time until you begin to wonder why you could have ever thought, any part of it difficult, for its seeming complexity will lead you to the most surprising simplicity. And I thought this was beautiful. They continue to drive that home. And again, on the next bracket section, it says we must accentuate the fact that God never allows more than half of nine for any action of man or universe. And so man or nature. So we're going to go to that. And so John, you were talking about this earlier when the green brackets, please. I'm going to keep going at a pretty big clip because there are so many out of this.
Well, what you're going to hear us talk about later on is the cosmic pendulum, the cosmic clock, if you will. And so the Russells earlier on there in that line, it said, if you can count to 9, or if you can add up to 9, you can master the secrets of the universe. All right. So that statement that was in those brackets, it stated that 4.5 swings of the cosmic pendulum belong to you. That's God's free will that you had been given to do anything that you want. But the other 4.5 swings of the cosmic pendulum belong to God, Creator. So, but let's simplify that a little bit. So God gives you 4.5 swings. Says, here you go. You know how Rush Limbaugh used to say genius or brilliance or something on loan from God? Well, that is a very true statement. So God gives you those 4.5 swings. Says, here you go. Do whatever you want with them. And
so I was actually intrigued, John, because as I was reading today, I had my hands out and I was thinking, I had to wonder, we have 4.5. So it really almost, when you think about this, 4.5, absolutely. So right there in front of us, I was thinking, isn't that fascinating? I had never really thought of it that way before. So let's keep going, because I'm going to have you all comment that there is so much, and we're going to get there, Miss Karen, as we go through. So
we don't have halves anymore. We just got halves.
No, it's a little part together. Those halves go together.
So they're in $3.99. If we'll come down there to where the purple heart is, please. And so what it says here is this, as we get there. Okay. It says, the great teacher is not angry or wrathful when his pupils fail in their lessons. He forever reaches out to all things with that compassion, which is a part of love, which reaches out to man in the foxhole, man in the prison, or in a slave camp, or the wounded lion, forever saying, seek me, know me, be me. Know thou my divinity in thee. And so I thought it was really, that's what they were saying, is that each one of these ideas are peeled back one step at a time. But I really chuckled at the next sentence, because it said, is that in the measure of his or her ability to hear and comprehend his voice, for all things in nature respond to love. For all things reach out to the light of love, even the lowliest seedlings or flower in your garden. So I used to put a vase of tulips in my kitchen, and it would always make me chuckle that no matter where the sunbeam was coming in, those tulips would somehow magically all lean towards the sunbeam. Have you all ever noticed the flowers? It used to make me feel like they had a life of their own, because no matter where the sunbeam came in, there was always leaning towards that. And so that made me chuckle there. Made me chuckle.
Kimberly?
There. Yes.
That next paragraph that begins in yellow.
Yes.
I wanted to give a modern day example of that. As you know, I'm a big football fan, and I enjoy some college football on Saturday and so on. But I was watching the Ohio State Penn State football game, and I didn't know this, but the stadium at Penn State, the 4th largest stadium in the world, 2nd largest in the United States, and holds 111,000 people.
Wow.
So any given Saturday, there's 300 college football games going on. So here we are with the spiritual, trying to express and teach the spiritual qualities of man. Yet on any given Saturday, you've got millions of people that gather in these stadiums to watch people kill each other, basically.
Well, maybe we'll have that many, and maybe they'll have that many in stadiums again someday, John. So
yes, spiritual games.
I actually had to think about how much effort, I used to go tailgating all the time, and I thought about how much effort goes into those things. And I would always tell my daughter, who's 27 now, is that one of the most important part of your life is your spiritual journey. So invest in your spiritual journey. And then I would say secondary, invest in your physical journey, because I always felt those two were two sides of the same coin. But let's go ahead and anchor down. Hello, Dee. Hello, Karen. Hello, Christy. So glad to see you all. Sending you much love. The first big concept of all of the ones in this particular one is on page 400. So John, I'm gonna. There's a couple of things there. So we'll scroll first of all to that little light, the little highlighted line above that, James. It says this. It says the action and reaction of the pendulum creates the product called time. So we come back to this pendulum. We'll talk about that more, but the divine trinity there in that big circled highlighted section. So Jim, why don't you take a shot at simply explaining this, because we have so much to unfold here this evening. That is a really important, for those of you that have your copy, you want to be sure to star circle this section.
The divine trinity consists of God, the undivided father mother of creation, and the two divided father and mother pairs which constitute creation. The following diagram will give a more dynamic illustration of it. And the diagram is very simple, as you can see, and very well put. In the center, in the beginning, at 0, you have God. Now you notice that the father and mother divided, that make up the divided universe, the father, mother natures, are both at 0 too. Because when they are balanced, they express divinity. When they know their balance, when they're not in conflict with each other, they know their divinity. And that's the beauty of this chart. Divinity unexpressed in center, divinity expressed through father-mother love.
All right, so we're landing that because we're going to continue. This is really important because what they're going to do is build the cosmic pendulum, the pendulum for you as we're going along here. And so as we scroll down, I noticed the wave. I hope you all don't miss that. Creation consists only of light waves. So if we can begin to just anchor that. So we now understand we've got the mother-father principle of God. The creation consists only of light waves, okay? And so as we go into the top of page 401, so please know, everyone, that we're going to stay at a big clip tonight because there is a ton of very important information. So John, why don't we go to that circled section where, again, they bring up what Ken often calls the 3 omnis, very powerful words.
Mm-hmm. We shall gradually arrive at full knowledge of the one omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent mind being, which is God, creator of all the universe. That one life force is the universe, and you are the universe because you are that light force. Now, there's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, try accepting that. May I back up just a moment?
Sure.
You know, I don't know if it's Catholicism or whatever religion does the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? And so what we just gave mankind was the true Trinity. There's no male, right? It's Father, Mother, God, Father, Mother, and then the reuniting of that. So there's no 2 males. So I just thought it was important to just kind of show that differentiation.
It is, and there's a method to my madness, to my dear panel. So there's so much as we go through this. This is 30-something pages of deep concepts, and so I want to build on. So one of the things that it's hardest to do with Jim and John, who have been students of 50 years, is the fact that sometimes they already have been through the whole course and back many times. Before we continue, I want to ask everybody, if you would, that's listening here, just go ahead and write in the chat box the 3 omnis. Feel free to write the 3 omnis or write down your favorite of the 3 omnis, although they do all go together. As John was just saying, the Trinity, they're 3s and 3s and 3s. So a lot to be said about the 3 omnis, and those are 3 words that are really important for you to anchor in your consciousness here, because that's not really a word those words really aren't ones that we hear all the time together. So that's important for us to note that here. All right, so let's continue as down that page. And there are 2 paragraphs there I want to bring up to the attention. And Karen, just let me know. I'm not calling to you yet because I know you're working on the visual journey. So just send me a note whenever you're ready. But it says, like your body, God's light wave body is ever changing, living, dying matter in motion, just as your body is ever changing, living, dying matter in motion. Your body, which is God's body, is motivated by a pulsing heartbeat of rhythmic breathing inwardly and outwardly. Inwardly and outwardly. So let's pause for a moment. Every time all of us breathe, we're literally manifesting this sentence right there. We're living this sentence. Is that fair enough, Jim, John?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely right.
Okay, so in the breath, something incredibly powerful, which is why we see so many meditative practices go back to that. Hello, Bruno. Hello, Frank. Hello, Debbie. And it says yes, Karen. Karen, you had a thought?
I did. It's interesting. I think when we think of the universe breathing, we actually breathe together. So when we look at the oceans, it's 75% of our oxygen. When we exchange the carbon dioxide with the trees and back and forth, we're breathing together. It's this symphony. So it's not just that we're breathing. Even the cosmos, when the galaxies exchange, and everything is breathing. Literally everything is breathing.
Everything is breathing.
So it is an intimate interchange with the whole cosmos all the time, and that's something we don't think about.
All right. Lovely. So well said. And so as we continue, it says your body is the record of your thinking. So let's capture that. Your body is the record of your thinking, just as God's body is the record of his thinking. This issue around the body is going to come more and more and more. And so as we scroll down, it says this. It says your body is the part of God's perfect body. He gave it to you from his perfect body for you to build into perfection and re-give to his body. Man not only pollutes his body by his free will actions, but tries to pollute God's body from which his own body is made. And John, if you would, please read that part that's underlined there with the yellow highlight to the side.
Every cell of God's body breathes in and out as God's thinking process compresses and expands. Every sun, planet, growing plant or tree, electron, or of an atom or stellar galaxy breathes in and out. That is the most conspicuous fact of nature.
So when you scroll down, so let's scroll down because it says the universal body pulses. Okay, stay right there, James, if you'll scroll down. Pulses, compresses, and expand. But I want to go down to the next highlighted section. It says everybody is an extension of God's body. Everybody. So that means everyone who is on with us, everyone that we pass by, anybody that we love, anybody that we don't love, anybody as we're going into, lots of changes in society, everybody is an extension of God's body. Can we just center that for a moment? Because there's nobody that's being separate. It's all one. And I thought this next section, Jim, I'm going to go to where I have wow written, because to me, this was before we end up taking our first break here. Can you slowly read that section where it says God's soul? Because this is, and for those of you listening, whether it's now or later, you're welcome to even close your eyes and breathe it in, because these are powerful words.
God's soul is the universal soul, and you are that soul. God's mind is the universal mind, and you are that mind. God's thinking is universal thinking, and his thinking is your thinking. God's body is the universal body, and you are that body. There it is in a nutshell.
Woo!
Big step.
You could just feel the power of those words. And then I wanted to pause for a moment, because what I have highlighted in green, and this is what was really got me about the Russell work, one of many things. And it says that it's regrettable that there is no word in our language which conveys the father-mother meaning and forces us to use the masculine pronoun he in reference to God. One cannot say he, her, nor can one refer to the cosmic creator as it. That is indeed unfortunate. So let's just lay that here for a moment, because to me, this was one of the first writings that really was acknowledging the mother-father. I always knew that there was this partnership, but yet I have been brought up to understand that it was very, very different. This spoke to me, and more importantly, it was really healing to me. So I wanted to ask the panel to comment on that, because we're living in a world that for many, I know for me, especially as a woman, I was deeply grieved by the fact that the feminine side, the mother side of God, was left out of the conversation. So if we can go to the panel and just ask you all to comment before we continue.
When you think of the heart, it has two sides of the pump, and one actually drives it more than the other. One actually pushes the other, but they have to have each other. So one is I'm going to say the male side, one's the female side. So when the Russells talk about that sex principle, it's really an action and a reaction, a giving and a re-giving within the heartbeat of the universe. But that is it. It's not so much that it's sex. It is the action of the giving and the re-giving and the motion of it that actually what they're describing. And when you see that spin, it creates everything from the song, the music, the chemistry that cascades out of the light wave. And that is why everything is everywhere and in everything, and why we're all one.
Wow. So I know we're going to go to Jim, but I have to tell you, when I was reading this section, I couldn't help but go back to have a flashback to that movie Dirty Dancing, where Patrick Swayze was trying to teach her how to dance, and he had her hand on his heart and was saying, just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And for many of us, that would actually be a great way to keep ourselves grounded. Jim?
Love it.
In reference to what you just read and Karen was talking about?
But just in general, to
The heartbeat.
It is. Yeah, it's it's the in and outward breath, whether it shows up in a heartbeat or in a sound, in a reverberation of a sound, or dropping a pebble in the water. You see the waves go out, you see them come back. Every action has that equal and opposite reaction, and that's what creation is. And every action is an act of love manifesting. It's so beautiful when you begin to grasp that and begin to accept the fact that you can commune directly with the divine, because the divine centers you in all other things.
wow. John, a comment before we take a break, and I'll pull up a few of the quotes from people who are commenting.
I have to dry my eyes. That was so beautiful, Jim.
Oh,
It was.
It really was. What I would like to do, Kimberly, is make a suggestion to our audience that if they would start assimilating terms. Now, here we're talking about breathing, right? So when we breathe in, we're taking oxygen in, all right? And if you can study the lungs, and you'll see how that air is then compressed. Compression is male, compression is red, and that's how our body generates heat. Okay, that's what causes our body to heat, is that compression. And then the exhalation of carbon dioxide, which is a poison to us, but it's the life force to trees, is the female, the expansion. Okay, so just if people would just start associating those terms, compression is male, expansion is female, heat, male, cold, female. And then that will make all of this come together like pieces of a puzzle.
And Kim, 1 second, Kim, 1 second. I want to clarify something there, just so they continue to follow it. Male, dominant, masculine coming in is almost equaled in its inwinding by the feminine presence. Dominant, feminine going out is almost equaled by the masculine presence. Male, female are present in both sides of the wave, but one dominates each side.
All right, so we're getting there. So everyone who is not familiar with these terms, what they're inviting you to do is to write down some of these terms, make a mental note, maybe even make a note there in your home study course. So
what I'm saying is male and female are equal,
yes,
but opposite expressions of love.
That's a lovely saying. Say it one more time, Jim.
Male and female are equal, yet opposite expressions of love.
Okay, so to the panel, we are off to our first break. Understand we're not even halfway through the first part of the section, so I'm going to keep us clipping away because there's a lot to go, unless I'm going to have you all commit to doing another session later this week. So hang with me because there's a lot to cover here. Keep the motivation. So for everyone watching, we're taking a quick 3-minute break. Go take a chance and breathe in a little bit, get some oxygen, and we'll see you in 3. All right. If you are within earshot, if you will find your way back. Find your way back to our time together here today as we continue our conversation. Our 3 minutes is officially up. 3 minutes go by fast, so I guess we'll all have to start time bending to make them go longer. So here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to the bottom of page 404. It was a big challenge for us as we were thinking through what to cover for all of this. So I pulled some things out. To the bottom of page 404, it says this. As he scrolls down, keep going. Okay, right there. So therefore we say to you that you should write the desire deep into your soul through your heartbeat, so that you would be enabled to vision the universe as a whole. And notice that whole is all in caps, with you yourself as the center. Think of your desire as God's desire expressed through you. And as you gradually learn to think that way, God comes ever closer until there is absolute oneness. That's very poetic.
Yeah, very true.
Very, very poetic. And so as we continue to this next page, I'll ask for some comments here, is because in the bracket, the purple bracket, it says that when you know it, nothing prevents its fruition. For all the power of the universe is yours to command, to bring that desire to fruition. So let's just pause there for a moment, because that is a pretty powerful statement. Jim, if you'll make a quick comment, and then I'll ask John before we continue.
We each have complete power to manifest, as any one of the great masters did, as God manifests the universe. What we lack is the knowing of that power. And that's why we don't manifest as quickly. We are controlled by time instead of understanding in the long run. If you just keep your communion up, you'll find that you are the master of time. You are the master that can manifest anything that you want in your life. If you can simply hold the concept of what you desire in your mind and not let life pull you away from center. Hold it, desire it, know that it's yours, and continue on, and it will manifest.
All right, John. Are you on mute, John? You're talking away. It feels like I should be able to telepathically hear you, but not quite yet.
I wasn't muted. Can you hear me?
We can. When you go on the break, it automatically mutes you.
Okay. Anyway, what I wanted to say was that to add to Jim's statement is desire is the most powerful force in the universe. And if people only understood how to manifest that power, okay, to where they are working, you have to work knowingly with your creator. I and my Father are one, okay? You and your Father aren't two, you're one. And desire what ye will, and it standeth before thee. It's that simple. It is that simple.
Okay. So, Karen, as we go into this next page, so I had to chuckle, everyone. So starting on page 406, 406 and 407. So for a moment, John, can you please just explain to the group what was important about the underlined sections? When you see something underlined in the home study course, what is the signal that Walter and Leo were trying to give us?
It's important. Believe me, when it's highlighted and underlined, you need to read it a second and a third and a fourth time, because it's powerful, and the Russells are trying to get that point across to you.
So I had to chuckle because all of page 406 is underlined and all of page 407 is underlined. So
John, pay attention.
So I want us to spend some time here, because this was really, really big. And when I looked up those pages, they're one of the few pages that I've seen where almost the entire page is underlined. So
in essence, they're shouting that information.
Yeah, back in the days when they had typewriters, they didn't have highlights and the way to make words bigger. It was all the same. Mm-hmm. So it was talking about the more you can lose your individuality by thinking universally. That was what was above. And so it says at the top here, the more you can do this, the more you are thinking cosmically from your inner cosmic conscious basis. Therefore, the state of cosmic consciousness will be ever awakening in its power of the inner perception through the seat of sensation and finding rest in its centering light of consciousness.
Now there's a mouthful.
It was. Truly. So as you're all listening to this, allow it to drink in, and don't expect that you might actually get it all. Please know that this is an awakening. You actually know this deep inside. But why don't we go ahead into that first two sentences really after where it says first principle summarized in postulates. John, if you'll start with the creator.
The creator is the all-knowing mind of undivided, still, and unconditioned invisible light of mind. The creator is mind only. Now, that is like, you've got to be able to grasp that. So when people say, oh, well, what is God and who is God and whatever, God is mind. And what is mind? Mind is thought. Then that's all there is. Period.
All right.
So, more, or are you going to?
So let's pause for a moment here because Frank has a question, and he says this. He says through meditation. Or so Frank says, what is the seat of sensation, and is that through meditation? So who wants to tackle that one?
Well, the seat of sensation is you, that microscopic dot of light that is centered in the pineal gland. That's your seat of consciousness. That's where you are centered or seated in this body. And your center of consciousness is never separate from the mind of God. Your mind, God's mind are one.
That's why the home study course is all about going inward versus going externally. So that's the difference that we're listening to. So Karen says in her comments here, she says, I get it. I think the rest is hard to understand, resting in the peace of God. So, okay. So as we continue here, Jim, are you still with us? Are you working on technical difficulties?
I'm still here. I've lost my camera for some reason.
You lost your camera.
Can you hear me? I will reboot it. Let me say here briefly, Kim, one of the things that we want to work on, and it becomes clear through your meditations and your silent communion, is when we think things or state things, we need to be very aware of what and how we say things.
Yes.
For the person that says, oh, I could never do that. Oh, I'm in a hurry, so I can't do this, or I can't. These words have got to go away. Mm-hmm. You can manifest anything you want when you know it unquestioningly. And I'm talking about, you can clarify and clear the way for a peaceful drive to work by giving it that thought body and not thinking a negative about it. And these are habits that as you form them, they clear your life and they give you great peace within.
Well, and the important thing about that, Jim, is that we have a lot of J's. We have Jim, John, Joey, and Jackie. So, and then we have Kim, Karen, and Ken. So, a lot of J's and K's in this group. So forgive me. I feel like my grandmother every once in a while calling out everybody's name. But even Ken and I would have these conversations because when we say things like, I am tired, or I am frustrated, or I am something, when we declare those things, we are sending out a thought wave into the universe. And really, really important. That's part of why this whole journey is about us learning to take more ownership for what it is that we say, because we literally create our reality. I did want to go back, though, to something you see where I've noted on Unit 1, and it says this: the pulsations of mind thinking are concentrative, decentrative sequences expressed in light waves. So I know that sounds big, but I want to go back to an image that you all already saw back in Unit 1. This is how so if we'll pull up that image on slide 25 here, and wanted to remind everybody that when you go back to this particular page, this is already what they were talking about, is decentrated, how do I say that they're concentrative, decentrative sequences. And so this is that inward outward breath, is it not, John?
Yes, it is. Okay. And those spinning top examples that you have too, Kimberly, you spin them and then you'll see the one it compresses, then you spin it the other way and it expands. And that sequence is happening simultaneously throughout the universe, nonstop.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm bringing this up to everyone because as we're going through this home study course, these concepts begin to Velcro almost to each other. So I wanted to remind you that this was back in Unit 1. Oh, look, Jim has appeared again. All right, good news.
I
Good news.
desired to, and so it was.
And so it was. All right. So I'm going to go to this here to the bottom here, where the bottom of page 406, because there's two more areas that we need to land. And again, there's so much here. So scroll up. Okay. This is the universe of rest from which all motion springs. And I have it circled and highlighted yellow. There is no death in all the universe. There is no death in all the universe. And in fact, when you interact with Walter and Leo and Russell students, they will talk about when people, what we say past, have actually, you all say refolded. We all say refolded. Why?
It's the seed of the soul that you refold into. So they say that you refold into the seed of your true reality. And so that you're an eternal being. You've been in and out of life in many, many bodies for thousands of years. You've been male, female. You've been father. You've been mother. You've been grandfather. You've been grandchild. You've been every form of humanity that you've met. You've done wondrous things, and you've done horrible things as we slowly learn the lessons of creation and life and discover the divine within us. And none of it is evil. It is imbalance.
Yes.
If you're extremely imbalanced, that's what we call evil. If you're off center a little bit, we call that, annoying, or that person is lost. So it's start to work very hard, if you can, on changing your thinking and seeing someone's action as an unbalanced or action from someone who doesn't know.
Well, and that's
doesn't mean
really,
you don't hold them responsible, Kim. You do hold them responsible for their action, but you don't hate them for their action.
so I'm going to encourage everybody to please go back and study page 407 especially. So I'm not going to spend the time here right now because we've got a lot more to cover, but 407 is a very, very important one. But go ahead and scroll down. And there's an important phrase on this next page, 408, and it says, that which you can see, you cannot know, and that which you can know, you cannot see. So John, comment on that right quick, because I hear a lot of Russell students refer to this phrase.
Idea manifested is what you can see. You have thought manifested, idea manifested, you can see by the senses of your body. Okay.
So you talked about that, like when you go to an antique place, you end up seeing ideas manifested everywhere.
That is correct. So that is sensation, right? Now, I can't know those things, but I can see them. Now, that which you can know, you cannot see. So knowing is the same as mind. And mind is stillness. And the reason that you cannot see stillness, because there is no motion. Your body, your senses cannot pick up the vibration of zero.
Okay. So let's just lay that there. I don't want to go too heavy into this. And so Karen, I wanted to have you just read the section in blue here, because this is where they got into a section called axioms. And it says the realities of life are, and there are 5 things which they state.
Okay, I need to go to that page. There we go. The reality of life are balance, love, truth, energy, and the law. These are the qualities of mind which you can see, which you cannot see. You can only know them. The unrealities of life you can also alone see, for they cannot be known. The realities are qualities of mind at rest. The unrealities are qualities of sensed matter in motion.
All right, so let's go back to that first sentence, because to me, I really thought that was pretty powerful. It all is powerful, but the realities of life are balance, top of the list, love, truth, energy, and the law. So what is the law referring to, Jim?
Well, all of those are one thing. They're all balance or love. And we just break them up into multiplicity to help explain them to each other. So the universal principle, the universal law is balance, and balance is love. And when you have balance and love, you have truth. And when you have balance and love expressed, you have energy exchange, bodies expressing balance and love, and that is living the law.
Okay.
Nice.
Karen? Did you want to
I
add
think
to
he's. Nope, I just thought that was nice going, Jim.
And the beauty of that, Kimberly, and the beauty of that statement is that you could also go back to front and it would be the same thing.
True.
Well, I wanted the law we're talking about here is natural law, is it not?
Yes.
Yes. Natural law. So that's part of why the title of the home study course is the way it is. It includes natural law. So I think it's really powerful for us to be sure that we slow down. And what I was so appreciative of the sentence is the realities of life are balance, love, truth, energy, and the law, because we keep being told here in this reality that the realities of life are success and all the material goods and all the things that so many of us at a heart and soul level, we've known that wasn't the reality. And yet we've been on this, it feels like sometimes swimming upstream of trying to say, wow. So I wanted to simply just have us there for a moment.
Let me say something here. The reason the Russells use the term unrealities is that anything that is in motion is an illusion. And that's why it's an unreality. It really isn't happening. It's like a hologram, right? And the idea of that unreality is back in mind at rest. So anything that's in motion is just a simulation. It's not real. It is unreal.
Okay, interesting.
But our senses want us to believe that it's real.
Well, Ken makes this point a lot. We had a particular moment on the mountain when he was explaining to me, when we looked at the trees and the mountains and all the beauty, you can experience the beauty there, but all of that shows up in your eyeball, and actually it's light. So you can't stick all those trees and all the mountain in your eyeball. So it was really an interesting moment for me to be able to say, wow, that's exactly, it's all an illusion, because it's really all light.
And it's a grand and wondrous illusion.
It is a grand and wonderful. So I'm not nearly as poetic as Ken. We miss him greatly. So we miss him greatly. So why don't we go ahead, please, and jump down to page 410, because we still have so much to cover. And it talks about, I found it very interesting that they use the word kaleidoscope here. So when we scroll down to 410, I really appreciated the simplicity. And many of you have known this. And so we call your attention to that illusion of infinite complexity and the familiar toy known as the kaleidoscope. So John, if you would help me continue that particular paragraph, because I thought this was really powerful, and someone could go find themselves a kaleidoscope and it would help them understand what this means.
Yeah, everyone should own a kaleidoscope so that they can see simplicity made into complexity. And as many times as you turn that kaleidoscope, you'll get a different formation and a different combination of lights and colors and forms. But so the basis is those three mirrors.
Yes.
And those three mirrors, that if we go back to the cube, or when we get to the cube, all right, when we have the height and the width and the breadth, you'll see how that comes together.
But there they described right there that actually there's just a few broken pieces of glass in a kaleidoscope, but you think you're seeing thousands of geometrically and mathematically repeated pieces, which are not there at all. So, when I came into the Russell Museum and became familiar with the work and creating a Russell experience, the voice I kept hearing from the divine was, creation is child's play. Creation is child's play. And that was the sense of play that I would try to bring, and that you'll see us even try to do here with our Awaken Your Inner Genius. You awaken our inner genius. So in that sentence there at the bottom of page 410 in purple, it says, every mystic who has been fully illumined knows that the entirety of this wave universe of matter in motion is an unreality, a cosmic illusion. That's what you were just saying, John.
Yes.
And also, let me jump in here and point out, as I have before, that if you look at the base teachings, not what's written about the mystics throughout history, but their base teachings, all they're trying to do is point out that the divine within you, and that they are not above you in any way. They're just further along the path to enlightenment.
Right. Yes. So I want to go down to where there a little bit farther there on page 411, and you'll see where I have the word written discussed, because I want to talk about this particular paragraph about where we are. So if we'll scroll down a bit on page 411, and it says this. It says the next thing to knowing all things is to comprehend that timeless flash of cosmic light. So if everyone listening can write down in the chat box, timeless flash of cosmic light. Notice they have cosmic and light capitalized, which is God's inner voice, endeavoring to make you know all things by telling you of his kingdom of light within you, which is the source of all knowing and all power. Okay, so let's pause for a moment there, because I personally, Kimberly Faith, I genuinely believe that we are inching closer to where more and more people are waking up on the planet where they're going to have this flash of cosmic light. So that was part of what my heart was telling me, John, when I first walked in. And I said to you, it's important. It's time. We've got to explain to people. Thank you, Frank. Frank wrote down timeless flash of cosmic light. I said, it's important that we reach more, because people need to understand that this is coming. You remember that conversation,
Yeah.
John?
When you read
Yes.
the course here, if I can jump in for 1 second, when you're reading the course, whether it's the first time through or another, and we ought to do as John and Kim have both said, if you don't get something you just read, stop, pause, decentrate, and come back and read it again. As you read something and it jumps out to you and you have that moment, that aha moment is, I understand. That, the Russells make very clear, is what an illumination is on a tiny scale. So you're already being illumined step by step every time you understand something is a truth, and you go, wow, that's an illumination. So it's not something that you're not familiar with. You just are not quite ready, in most cases, many are, to have the grand illuminating into illumination or Christ consciousness.
I simply believe that there's going to be more and more of that kind of awareness. I mean, even I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, and I've been studying this throughout the day, and I was in such a joyful state of, it felt like so many mini sparks. I felt like I was having a little bit of cosmic popcorn. Yeah. And all being ignited by this work here in this lesson. And even Karen and I talked multiple times, and she was like, this is a big lesson. It's important, Karen.
Yeah, no, it's been actually, this and the next one are amazing. And I will say for myself, sitting here doing the study course the first time with you guys, my mind has been more, I'm going to say, cosmically connected than it's ever has. And it's really been really fun to witness the work and listen to you guys, and to actually go and check out for a little bit, decentrate. And I just say, wow. So I'm understanding it at a much bigger and deeper level. So thank you, gentlemen and lady. And lovely lady.
I love that. I'm actually going to ask James to come on board, because James has been through the Russell experience. He's been to the museum, but he's also starting to go through the home study course in more detail. And James, you said something earlier today that even, you're on mute at the moment, but even when you went back to Unit 1, what were you saying is that you were reading it multiple times for the same reason?
Yes, I think I've gotten to Unit 3, and then once I got the full thing, I started over, and I have read Unit 1 about 3 times now, and each time I thought, did I catch this the first time? Because it seemed like the first time I recall when I went through it, I was totally out of my element. I just felt like this was a new language, and the second time a little more was unveiled, and the third time it felt like it all started becoming much clearer. So I can see why they recommend reading it every single year. I can only imagine that becomes even more true in the later units.
Can you imagine what it would be like over 50 years, James?
I'm going to find out.
There you go. So last thing I want to
Whatever you do, don't end up looking like Jim after 50 years. Then you know that you made a wrong turn somewhere.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see. Let me put myself beside him. I can see
There
it.
you go. There you go. Yeah, young Jim.
Jim and John are cousins, by the way. So when you hear them razzing each other, it is because they have been their cousins. I do want to land one final thought before we take our next break, though. And if we'll go down to the bottom of 411, where I have an orange highlighter, it talks about that if the great miracle of cosmic consciousness ever comes to you in its fullness, instead of gradually, stay right there, James, is coming. This is what you will realize and know. You will instantly know that you are one with the undivided still light of all-knowing mind. You will instantly know that state of ecstasy, which never changes in the God mind, which is utterly devoid of human emotions such as anger, fear, wrath, impatience, and other emotions, which appear only in bodies that are unbalanced. Scroll up. You will keep going. But never in the stillness of the Creator's mind. Immediately, all sense of body and sin and evil will disappear, for you will become mind in which there is no sin or evil. You will know the thinking of the knower to be the two of the pulsing heartbeat of the knower's thinking. Wow. So drink that in during our 3-minute point of decentration, and we'll see you in 3 minutes to continue our journey. All right, if you're within earshot, please find your way back. Find your way back. Such an honor to be on the journey here with all of you. I want to pull up Deb Tompkins' comment. Really appreciate you, Deb. She says this: all that you are doing is so empowering as you share these teachings. The multiplying energy of sharing the understanding of the Russell teachings is an amazing gift. Thank you, panel. And we would say the same thing to you, Deb, is saying thank you for being there as well. Hello, Carolyn. Hello, Frank. We're so grateful for all of you. Now, whenever we reach this point on the evening, there's always decisions to make. So I am going to jump ahead a little bit, but let's pull up Bonnie's comment right quick before I jump ahead. Bonnie says this: I'm wondering about all of those that have not had the resources, not the resources of the study. Does God have a way of covering those not so privileged with some form of cosmic consciousness? So let's talk about that. I do want you all to know that on the philosophy.org website, for those of you that do have concerns, you are able to apply for a scholarship to get your own copy of this course. But John, what do you want to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And there are means in which the university does make the home study course available to you. Now, it requires a few moments of work on your part, but if you will fill out the application online and just submit it, as president, I don't think we ever turned down an application, because it's wonderful to see the reason, because you have to give X number of reasons of why you feel that you're worthy of it. And it's wonderful to read those. So I would encourage anyone that's listening that needs a little assistance. You will not be turned down. Just go through the motions of applying for the application and you'll get a home study course.
So, and for the rest of us that are able to, this is, you may even want to sponsor a home study course for someone, but do remember that is part of why we're such a fan of the book, The Man Who Tapped, because this is a small way. So Bonnie, I genuinely believe, dear one, that the cosmic consciousness, the universe does align for those things to come to us. And it might be that they end up listening to videos like this. Maybe they join some of the events, but this is, this little one is only $12. And this little book, for all of you right quick, I have a personal desire to place The Man Who Tapped in the hands of 1 million people. That's Kimberly Faith's desire. I have stated that multiple times, that's really what I'm hoping, that my work can help just ripple through the universe. And Jim, why is this a good little book to start with before we go to page 415?
Because he explains in the book what his illumination was, what his childhood was like, how he grew into his illumination. It did not come to him all at once. It came to him in yearly flashes from the time he was 7 until he was 49 when he had his grand illumination. It was a process, and we're all going through a process. And in answer to Deb's question, for those people that may never discover the home study course, that still small voice, is commonly known of the divine, is always communing with you.
Yes.
Voice is small, not because it's a small voice, because you have little understanding of what it is yet. And it will never force itself on you, but it will always give you that little nudge from time to time that makes you stop and, oh, is this a good decision?
I had an illumination last year where I was actually shown that we all have that light that connects. Okay. We're very aware of that. And I was saying to them, well, there's many people that aren't quite sure how to plug into that. And exactly what you were talking about, Jim, is that when you make a choice, the universe aligns to support that choice. But it does mean that you have to do your half of the equation, right, John?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To add to what Jim was saying, that silent voice within is God, period. And it's there always. And it doesn't push, it doesn't pull, it just is. It's there always. And so what each individual has to do is, the separation they have to make is all the noise and all the distractions that life can bring you.
Yes.
And that silent voice will guide you always in the right direction.
So I want to be really clear about that. So as someone who teaches systems thinking to a lot of corporations, those distractions, I can actually map out for you why and how and what. That is intentional to keep us from understanding and knowing this. So ask yourself, how much time do you spend in that still silent moment? How often are you right there in that moment? And Karen, I know that's been really important for you. When you get into that quiet stillness, that's how you create your genius and your magic of the visual journeys that you gift us with.
Mm-hmm.
Karen?
Yeah.
Just shake your head, Karen.
Yeah.
I did. I'm
down.
Karen. I'm just down.
A team player that just says, what?
We went through this, Karen, at the beginning. If you don't understand, just shake your head up and down, and then we'll move on.
No. You know what it was? I had one, but over the course, I've been able to add motion to it. So I'm just right now putting the motion, which makes it come alive. And so it's still downloaded. And it's when you're coaching it along, it's like, go. And I'm waiting. So no, I'm not there. I'm just
okay. You're on the other side of it. So let's go ahead and jump down to 415. 415, because I want to land a few very important points. So 415 to where the blue highlight is, please. I know I'm skipping some pages, but this is of critical importance that we get to another section. It says the construction of matter is simple. You will find that stars do not evolve in any other sense than you evolve. They grow through 4 stages to maturity as you do. They then die through 4 stages as your body, and every other body which has ever been created is born, lives, and dies and decays in the order that they may relive. There is no death in eternally living universe. And so I'm going to go back in just a moment. I'm going to ask James if he would to go ahead and get slide 26 ready. Don't show it yet if you'll come to me for just a moment, because I want to share something that many of us right now are simulating what we call past lives, but it's really all that happens at the same time. I had a very powerful vision, a healing vision, when Ken was with me a few months ago, and it was very startling. And I saw the difference here in this reality of the difference of understanding this idea that we're all eternal. So while he was sleeping beside me one night, I was woken up at 3 a.m. and I literally had a memory of one of our many, many lives that we've had together. And in that life, he died. We were crossing over from England. I saw the whole vision. We were on a ship. It was a very difficult time, and he became sick because he kept giving me his coat to try to keep me from being too cold. And then he ended up falling ill. And I literally lived this memory. Jim and John actually heard from me that day that it actually happened, and they saw the emotion, because in that lifetime, I had no understanding that life was eternal. So I literally felt the pain, and I literally lived through that, felt the pain of losing him all over again. But it was an interesting moment, because at the same time that I was feeling that pain, his essence, who he is as a soul, is right beside me. So I was living in like this dual multidimensional world at that moment. And it really showed me that when we understand that we are eternal, that pain can be handled differently. Does that make sense to anybody?
Mm-hmm. It's still painful, but you have a deeper understanding.
I have a much deeper understanding. Yes, John?
I feel like Brett Baer when he was interviewing Kamala, and she looked at him and said, "You know what I'm saying, don't you?" And he goes, "No, I don't."
So are you saying that you don't understand me, John?
No, I do.
So I wanted to share that, though, because I think for many of us, we're assimilating a lot of what we would call memories, but they're all things that are within our consciousness for all of these things that they're talking about, that we're born and reborn. And so that's why I wanted to go back to slide 26, James, because I want to go back to unit 4. I'd like to remind everybody, and if you'll just flip slowly through these images, in unit 4, we laid the groundwork for exactly what we're talking about here. And so if we'll continue to the next one, when we talked about that whole issue of the undivided, the divided, keep going, and then the united. So if you overlay that right now, Jim, if you would, for the image that we showed earlier with mother, father, and mother, father together, just lay that concept right here on the image that we have here before we continue. Jim?
What was that other video game? I'm sorry, Jim.
No, go ahead.
What was that other video game that came out the time that Pac-Man did? And it was like a tennis thing, and that little thing would go side to side to side.
Did you have video games back then, John?
I didn't. But there was video games back then. Just like they had rotary dial telephones. But anyway, but that image right there, if you'll look at that image and just see those rings going out to that zero plane of curvature, reflecting, echoing, back to zero, right? Hit that and then back out again. And there it is. There's the simulation of life right there. Back and forth, back
John,
and forth.
They said the video game's name was Pong.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That must be somebody over 30.
Okay, but let's overlay this with the image that we saw earlier. So remember earlier tonight, we saw the line, we saw the mother, father there in the middle, and then we had mother and father on each, at the side. So if you'll pull that up right quick, Jim, and hold that up. I want to just
I'm
hold
looking
it up
for it. Yeah.
because I wanted to go back that this is where these concepts are being laid on one on top of the other. And this, I think, was the masterful part of what they did with the home study course.
Because they are the same concept expressed in
Yes.
different ways.
Yes. All right. There it is. You see it right there. There's the image, Jim. We found it.
Okay. Thank you.
So there's the image. And if we would, James, let's go ahead and go back to slide 31. So this also is back in unit 4. Take a look. Remember, we already saw this one time before. So everybody's already been this. Embryo, baby, child, youth, united, man, woman, youth, child, baby, embryo. So this is literally laying the steps for the cosmic pendulum that we're going to see more of.
It's just as true of a galaxy as it is an individual human being expressing life. It's just time difference. There's only a time difference.
Can we just breathe in the excitement of that? So for me, as someone who, when I first walked into this work 3 years ago, this was so exciting to put all these pieces together. I think my soul loves treasure hunts in the universe. I think that a lot of us do. And to me, this was so powerful. Why had I had not known that 53 years? And I just was figuring and putting all that together. And when it came through, it was such a sense of knowing. Karen, I know you studied this stuff for a long time, but you've said how much you appreciated the home study.
I wish I could. I promise in my chapter on the cosmos, I actually literally show it.
Ah, there you go.
So, yeah, okay. I don't know how. Let me see. Do it go this way? Yeah, I show it. I will take my book apart. And I will show you. I'll put it into a video for you for next week. And it's a whole section. Most of it is Walter Russell's work on the pulse, and I've done other things where you can actually see it moving, and you can see. I'll do that for next week. I have that. That was on my radar, and there you go.
I thank you. I just want to ask the participants: is this fun for you as well to see these puzzle pieces put together? I'm just curious. How exciting is it for you? Just give us some feedback. I want to say a gracious thank you to all of you that are with us, both on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and all the other places that we are live streaming. Thank you so much for being here and giving us such a joyful cosmic playground. I mean, this is so fun. All right. So we have a question. We love questions. Karen says this: Can you talk about the living organic matter and non-living matter that there is none? Page 415. What about plastic and toxic chemicals?
Well, plastic and toxic chemicals are things that are artificially put together in nature.
Right.
They're not in balance with nature. They take a much longer time to break up and return to their individual parts. And
this is on the bottom of page 415.
Oh.
Bottom up, go ahead. So as you're talking, I just wanted people to be able to see that last paragraph on page 415 is what she is referring to. It says, the mystery of matter shall disappear when the search for the line demarcation between living organic matter and non-living organic matter shall have revealed that there is no inorganic or non-living matter in the universe. All matter is body, and all bodies live and die, breathe in and out, pulse with their own heartbeat.
And all have purpose and function. But if they're put into if you're put into a situation where something is out of its position of balance and it is extreme, it becomes what we would call a poison. And it starts to break down bodies instead of build them. It's on the death side of the cycle, and which is radiating outward. And I pointed out before, look at me. My body is on the unfolding side of the cycle. I'm no longer youthful. I no longer have round cells in my body. They're beginning to oblate. I'm re-giving this body back to God who gave it to me. I, who center this body, have not changed and will not change. I'm the same divine light of source that I was when I got here, and I'll be the same divine light of source when I leave. And that's absolutely true of you and every other body there is. That's why it's important for us to learn to utilize this wonderful vehicle that we have, but do not let it utilize you.
Well, so this is actually one of the reasons why over the past 10 years, I've been encouraged to do a lot of fresh green juicing because, and I was being encouraged from my journey was to go away from some of the things that were non-living. That part of when if we want to raise in consciousness, so many of us have been encouraged to eat more things of the light. And that's because it's a more balanced process. And the juice place that I get these from every week, they're like, why do you drink like so many juices every single week? And it's very funny because what I tell them is it just has to do with consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Has to do with consciousness. So, all right. So we're down to the last 10 minutes. I want to be very, very deliberate because there's some really important things for us to land. If we will go ahead and go to page 416. Do remember, 7P, we have a comment right quick though. Says this, I see this more with connect the dots, wherein they both still make a picture and they fit like a puzzle. So yes, I love that. I totally love that. It's like a big cosmic puzzle. All right. So let's go here. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of technical glitches here. If one of you would please.
Would we lose Kim?
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
No.
so I guess I just
Okay.
went to the, maybe I have a little bit of cosmic flash there. So on page 416, scroll down to axioms, please. And where it says a heart, it says all things are one, but made to appear as two extensions of the one. Now, this comes from the Divine Iliad. And for someone who doesn't know about the Russell work, John, can you give a quick 60-second snapshot? What is the Divine Iliad?
Well, the Divine Iliad is the result of Dr. Russell's 39 day and night illumination. And it's 2 volumes, Iliad 1 and 2. And this is where Dr. Russell, I believe, between the 2 books, it's 30,000 words that he wrote down from his illumination without a correction or an erasure, directly from mind. Now, it is, it's like reading Shakespeare, the meter of which the Iliad is written. It's a little difficult at first, but once you get into that rhythm, it flows beautifully.
So if we'll go over here to the top of page 417. So I've been studying the Russell work in this lifetime for 3 years, and God's work actually for 3 years. I have many long history with understanding the art of creation. I found the Divine Iliad easier to understand after I went through the home study course. I now understand the poetry, the just sheer poetry of creation. And it is so heartfelt and so beautiful because, and it talks about here, my one command to all sex divided pairs of opposites and all my universe, my being capitalized, is that there shall be balanced rhythmic interchange in all the givings and regivings. So let's land this concept. This is on the next few pages. I'm going to continue and keep us going. It says the creator of the universe has but one law upon which all creation is governed, and only one. And that one law, speaking of natural law, commands that all transactions of any nature between pairs of opposites in nature or between men must be balanced. So let's go down to that next paragraph. The universe is founded upon the love principle of equal giving and regiving in every transaction whatsoever, whether in the heavens or upon earth, or in the home or business, or between one nation or the other, or between one chemical element or another.
Now, I would like to just comment. This is something that I struggled with a little bit early on. This is my first years there with Leo at the university. And she explained to me how charity does not fit in with nature because it's a one-way flow. It leaves a void. It's an unbalanced transaction. Now, I'm not saying don't be kind to your neighbor and don't help out. And when you give, you will be re-given. But the concept of charity does not exist in nature. Nature is always balanced in its giving and re-givings.
Interesting. Okay. So let's scroll down a bit here. I want to go to page 418 and pull out a couple of things. It says God's law of balance, where the green circle is, great. Listen to this phrase. Great art is simple. My universe is great art, for it is simple. Wow. Wow. How many of you who are listening right now have thought about the universe as great art? To me, that just gave me chill bumps. I found that was absolutely incredible. And if we'll scroll down to where it says balance, this next phrase that we're getting ready to lay down here is a really, really important one. It says, if man needs, now, John, I always hear your voice when I hear this. So if you would, you have repeated this to me so many times in these few years that we've been interacting together. Please start with that balance and go through that section.
Okay. Balance. And if man needs 2 words to aid him in his knowing of the workings of that law, these 2 words are balanced interchange. If man still needs more words to aid his knowing of my one law, give to him another one, and let those 3 words be rhythmic, balanced interchange. No messenger of the light has yet given this law to man, for man has not been able to comprehend it. If he had been able to comprehend it and practice it, he would have built a balanced civilization instead of a chaotic one. That's pretty powerful stuff right there. Woo.
That is. And when you scroll down to where I have the yellow highlight, it says this: no matter what happens to your own little universe, you will know what to do with it. So that's what they're saying, is that once you understand this natural law, you will understand how universes are created on a micro level and a macro level. So Deb, I want to bring up Deb's comment right quick. And we see you, Sam. So good to see you. And Judy, love that. But Deb Tonkin says this. When we were asking, she says, yes, after over 50 years of studying esoteric material from scripture, Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, etc., it wasn't until I found the Russell teachings that I discovered foundational understanding. And she goes on to say in the next comment, foundational understanding through the Russell material. You know, I love that, Deb. And part of, for me, is I find that the Russell material is almost like the outer rim of a puzzle, where all the other puzzle pieces that we've had in this lifetime kind of come together. That's what I find. So rhythmic balance interchange, our encouragement is to actually meditate on those words, because that is very, very powerful. So let's go ahead to the bottom, please, of page 420. I'm mindful of time. There's always so much to cover. Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. And it says the agony of unbalance. Life itself is a transcendent adventure. At its best, it is tremendously difficult. It is a huge mountain of unknown height whose top is hidden in an unpenetrable veil, which every man must climb. And from that upward journey of life, there is no escape for anyone. And I thought that was really a neat way to say it. Jim?
What would you like me to address?
Just comment about the fact that this is the transcendent. I mean, this is a transcendent adventure.
Well, it is, and we've been on it for millennia, and along the way we get these wonderful rests in between, which we call death, and the opportunity to inhabit a new body and have a new approach to things. All of these things, to me, at this stage, are gifts. A young man, when I had fear of pain and suffering and death, they weren't gifts. But now I understand that pain and sometimes suffering and death are opportunities for us to learn, to balance things out. If you have an imbalance in your body and it's causing you difficulty, you want to find out what that is. If you're overweight and you want to balance your weight, you want to find out what you're doing to unbalance it. Everything is simple, very simple. And that's why those 3 beautiful words are there. Rhythmic, balanced, interchange.
In fact, I find that a way to practice what they're teaching here is, at the end of the day, ask yourself, where was I imbalanced today? And when you ask yourself, you know, whether it's stillness or motion, whether it's silence or busyness, I mean, in everything, you can ask yourself, where am I in balance? 7P, I would like to have that comment pulled up. I think that speaks very well. And 7P says this is when the magic happens, in my opinion. For the universe, love the way he spelled it, Y-O-U. Karen spells universe, U-N-I dash verse. But for the universe must balance with giving, with no expectation, with equal reciprocity from anywhere to balance out. Whew, that was a lot. She says, I'm open to new information.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
right
and she's
along.
absolutely correct. The universe will balance every action, with a reaction that you put out there. It's not punishing you, nor is it bending over and breaking the universal law principles for you. It's allowing you to experience that which you create and learn from it. Free will is a wonderful thing, and it can be a very destructive thing if you don't utilize it properly.
That's in the common term saying we can be our own worst enemy, right? So
Yes, very much so.
I
And
lost.
and our own God, our own divine. Yes.
I lost 100 pounds 18 years ago because the first part of my life was incredibly unbalanced. And that came out in a very big unbalanced way, things that I would still be paying for today. So as we think about all things, it's that issue of balance. And if we'll go ahead to the top of page 423, it continues what you just said, Jim.
Let me jump in here for 1 second. Remember when you were showing the videos of us working in the museum?
Yes.
And you saw that heavier me in the pictures? I've done the same thing. I've lost 75 pounds.
Wow.
Through discipline, seeking balance.
Seeking balance. Yes.
Seeking balance.
Everything which happens to us is good. Knowledge of God's balanced universe will tell us that if all of our ills arise from unbalance and God's universe cannot be unbalanced, then we can balance our ills with that knowledge. Until we do balance them, they are but experiences, which are our lessons in life. Until we do balance them, we must regard them as but stepping stones across the stream of life. Wow. Now let's continue with that thought as we go ahead and scroll down to the middle of page 424. So we want to encourage everyone to read through the postulates, but I want to stop there at number 5 because it says that your thinking is divided and changing. Anything can happen to your thinking because your thinking is divided and changing. But you control your thinking. You can balance it and be joyous or unbalance it and be miserable. You can make wise decisions and grow strong or unwise ones and make failures for yourself. You can steal for your greedy self and be shut away from man, or you can give of your loving self and be honored by men. Your thinking is under your control. Your thinking expresses your desire. You are what you think. There's a t-shirt for us. You are what you think. You make yourself into the image of your desires. You can be whatever you desire to be. What you now are is the product of your thinking. So let's pause there for a moment because this work really does hold us personally accountable. I mean, there's no escaping that our thinking creates our worlds. John?
That is correct. I think further, a few pages back, they talked about your own universe.
Yes.
And that is so true. So Jim and I have had some pretty in-depth conversations about how we create our own universe, right? Our own kingdoms. And you have to think about that for a minute. So what you see around you every day, you have created all of that. You have brought all of that into being. So as you gaze around yourself, do a 360 degree. And if what you see you like, embrace it and be joyous. But if what you see you do not like, then you change your thinking to where it becomes likable and joyous.
So let's pause for a moment because I'll be perfectly honest with you. I was pretty pissed off when I found out about this particular natural law. Okay. So for many of us, I'm being very vulnerable. For many of us that chose to be born into situations and I had no exposure to these things. I was trapped in the dogma for all the way up until my 40s. And then all of a sudden I began to learn more and more of this. And I was slowly digging my way out of it. I was pretty angry because I was like, well, how was I supposed to know that? I was very frustrated. And so it was a long journey for me to figure out that we, in fact, did have a role in all of this and our thinking did have a role. And so I myself, John, had to work my way out of that victim mentality that's so prevalent here in society.
Yeah, my 2 longest years in school was the 6th grade. So I know what you mean.
All right. So let's go ahead and see Rita's comment right there. I'm sure some people can relate to that. Rita says this. She says, yes, it does hold us accountable, but understanding this is also where our freedom lies. So
That's
beautifully
true.
said.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So beautifully said.
But I also, it's like that evolutional part. I think we come in where we left off, where there's a symphony that leaves residue from a past something or wherever, and that's part of the journey of unraveling, and then knowing in your own truth when you see it. It's not like you have to have faith in it; you just know. That's the part was part of that. So,
well, also as we awaken and become more enlightened, and we begin to change our thinking, many karmic reactions to what we did will pass right by us now. You don't need that lesson anymore. You've risen above it. And that's where the forgiveness side of it comes in, for self and from other people. When you have that forgiveness in your heart and you don't hold people responsible, you're clearing not only your karmic line, and I'm talking family, expansion, humanity itself. You're lifting the whole by letting it go and working to live in that love principle and commune.
So I want to bring up 7P's comment because I totally relate to this. So this made me laugh out loud as we're finishing up here, and we'll see a quick visual journey. But 7P says, indeed, I kicked my own butt so hard before. So 7P, I'm right there with you. I made things extraordinarily difficult. In fact, when I was in my meditation the other day, I could actually feel God and my divine team saying, Kimberly. So it is time as we get ready to go into our visual journey here. Starting now. So let me wrap up one thing here. On the bottom of page 429, I want to encourage everyone to please spend some time on the conclusion because it says, those who suffer the most in their efforts to live are those without knowledge of natural law. And so part of the power of this idea of natural law is that you will know how to meet life. You will know how to meet life. And so we encourage you to spend some time there and that conclusion area. And so we just scratched the surface tonight. There is so much more to say, but it is time for our visual journey. And if you have any questions, we'll be back quickly after the visual journey to answer any of those. So Karen, what is our visual journey this evening?
It's probably the first half of what we kind of talked about.
Okay.
Okay.
So sit back, decentrate, and enjoy. Here we go. Can I just say, wow?
Karen, I think that's your best work so far.
What she did is she just gave us a snapshot of something we were going to announce tonight that's in development. So Karen, can I go ahead and break the news?
Yeah.
So if you'll pull up slide 17 there, James. So we are diligently working to have in time for the holidays an actual printed journal. So you'll see on page 17, what we're working on is a journal where they'll have a lot of the images that Karen had, and you'll have a journal prompting page. And if you'll look at the next two slides there, where you're going to see and be inspired by a number, go ahead, James, a number of those images that Karen was just pulling together. So this is an act of love. So a gracious thank you. A gracious thank you. Wow.
Wonderful.
That was just riveting. That picture of the kaleidoscope stopped my heart. Did you all notice that?
Mm-hmm.
That picture was incredible.
I'm noticing I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was noticing the scales. Being a Libra, that got me.
So before we answer some questions, we do want to mention, so this journal will be looking out there for this very, very soon. It's a gift that we're creating. And it also would be a gift that you could give someone for the holidays to actually bring them on. Maybe they're not ready for something like the home study course. Maybe they're not ready to read The Man Who Tapped, but this journal can certainly get them going. I do also want to bring up and remind everybody that Deb Tonkin, Dee Tonkin, who is there with us every Sunday night, we mentioned her a few sessions ago, where we want to remind you that the whole book series, they are great stocking stuffers. But her latest book, this woman, talk about an inspiration. The next slide, you can see her latest book that came out just in time for December, and it's the event celebration of the season. And so remember that this whole series of books is all about trying to give these take-along books to be able to spread the spark of divinity and these Brazilian tips and lessons. Powerful. So we're going to be partnering with her too. These are all ways that you can help spread the light. So you can invite people to watch the channel, subscribe, help us reach 500. You can share some of these things, and please remember to share more about the Awaken channel. We have more playlists that are coming soon. I'm really excited. The presentation that I did in August is finally ready and will be released to the public. This is where I talked about cosmic romance, and it was a beautiful session of talking about how we were inspired by Walter and Leo, and you'll learn about Ken and my story as well, and telepathy along with multidimensional existence. So let's see, do we have any questions? And as we're waiting to see in the chat box if there are any questions, any final thoughts from the panel? So Jim, something to wrap up as we're waiting for any final questions.
I thoroughly enjoyed this week's lesson, and I love the responses of fellow students out there, because they're getting it. They're seeing the importance of mastering their own lives by changing their own thinking, and it's a wonderful thing to witness.
I love that. And Karen in the comments actually said this. She says, yes, the knowing the science of natural law can steer us, grounded in God, to jump quickly through the hoops of activations and trauma to make better choices. 100% right, Karen.
Absolutely.
Love that. Love that. John, final thought as we're wrapping up here this evening. I know we're into Sunday night football, and you were graciously staying with us. We're almost to the finish line, my dear.
Well, I am so grateful that Jim was able to stay awake long enough to get to the end of the lesson this evening. So, Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, considering it is the time change and we all get an hour later, you're right. Totally. Karen, final thought.
Oh, you did? All right.
Final thought for the evening.
Just when you see that it is light and that it is the action of the two and how it creates through the kaleidoscope all of these different other things, you just go, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's when you get that, it's that simple. But yeah. So.
All right. I don't see any questions in the chat box, so we're going to let it be. I want to say a gracious thank you to everyone. This is truly a joy. Many of us got together on Friday. We're planning the future sessions. We have all kinds of goodies that we're going to be showing you and ways to make this more manageable and easier to learn. But most of all, we just want to send you all a great deal of love and gratitude. So thank you very much. 7P, let's end on his comment. It says, faith creates science, and the more digs, the more one finds. Isn't that the truth? So here is to constant digging. And there is John in one of our upcoming t-shirts, the Cosmic Thinker, Thank you, John. We'll be working. We'll be working on all of those very soon. So everyone have a wonderful week. Go back and read. We'll be diving into our next lesson next week. Do you remember we're following what the Russell's recommendation was? 1 unit per month, 1 lesson per week. We know it's ambitious, but we also trust that there's a reason it was designed that way. Until next time, everybody, see you next Sunday.
All right.